Functions. So what are functions? So let us consider an example. If you need something like a access a code in the app that requires like dozens of lines. So maybe iterations. For example, you are doing a for loop. Okay, so under a for loop, you are doing different set of iterations. So a for loop might not be the case for every single time, and also every single line within the for loop you want to exit it over and over again with different types of inputs. Okay, so these can be just like numbers. So maybe you can create a function. Okay, so basically a function um, to find out a square root of a number. Okay, so you can't do a square root. Maybe if you have a for loop, you might have a list of numbers. But if I want to give a different kind of input, again I need to manipulate my list. So instead, we will be using functions. So functions provide a way to compartmentalize code into small tasks, so that can be called for multiple places within the app. Okay, so again, it can be done outside the app also, but we'll be concentrating on only within the app for our course. Okay, so we won't be going with a concept of object-oriented programming. Okay, so but we will be using a few of the libraries which does use objects. So we will be creating objects. So it is not a complex step. It will be just one step, assigning a name with respect to an object. So that is called as object creation. So, but we won't be creating, we won't be going with respect to this object creation. And also, as I had mentioned, it will be like functions, inbuilt functions will be known as something like methods inside a class. So we won't be dealing any kind of class based. So anyone who is interested can go ahead and learn class based also. It is quite an efficient way, especially when you are writing, when you are working on a lot of big programs. For example, if you are having like 10,000 lines of codes or something like that, so a big project, definitely a class based is always an efficient way. So in this video we'll be seeing about functions. As I was mentioning, so functions can be divided in, you can divide a code into small part of task which has to be used in multiple places within the app itself. Okay, so doing so that just to make the, if at all you are if you are running these set of lines of codes multiple times, then it will make your code larger than it needs to be. So also, if you want to make any change, so like maybe one step of the repetitive steps is wrong, so you need to change it everywhere. Okay, so you have to fix an error code in it. So or else you wanna like change every single bunch of different change the code in every different bunch of codes. Okay, so bunch in the different places. So if at all code were contained in the function, then you can just easily fix the error at the one single location, and no matter how many times you want to do this, it will be working. And also there are a few special types. So before that, seeing with respect to what and all functions are capable, let us see about basic syntax. Okay, so you'll be using def for define. So this is another keyword present in Python. Feel free to create functions wherever required. Maybe you are just running it one time, so you can create a function. So next time, if you wanna use the similar kind of code or anything, you can just import that particular function into a different module. So always feel free to do that. So if you want to get some hands-on, like it is always best to get some hands-on experience to understand how exactly the function works. So again, we'll be walking through the code in the next video. So again, we can create a small function which will greet people based on their names. So that is about how we will create functions. So basically, you need to use define def in short for definition. So again, followed by a space, and now you will be giving your name of the function. So again, feel free to choose anything over here, any names. Or but the restriction, there are few restrictions. So basically, usually use with respect to words itself. Okay, or it can start with a character or an underscore. Okay, so usually you can prefer words itself. Okay, the string of characters. And also you need to have open brackets and close brackets. So within this brackets you can pass parameters. Okay, so parameters or arguments which we'll be seeing in detail about later. So these parameters can be again you can literally pass lists also, you can literally pass dictionaries also, but usually it will be like dictionaries won't be the case, but you can pass like kind of string, word, integer, real number, or then you can pass a list itself, which will be manipulated. Maybe you want to sort out a list. Okay, so you can directly use the sort function. Maybe you want to manually create your own function to sort it. So maybe in a more efficient way. So that can also be done. So that is a basic syntax. And also, what about the part of this code? Okay, so it will be under it. So basically, before that, here we have something known as a docstring. Okay, so this is like commenting a function. So comments always are optional in code, so it is not mandatory to have it, but it is somewhat uh, like it is kind of a compulsory way like to tell what exactly is your functions gonna do. Okay, so here we are just having the description like this is a function, a docstring describing a function. So basically here the docstring, so this particular function where you have three quotation marks and three quotation marks over here, so this is a docstring. So this is not it is similar to how we use multi-line comments, but under functions again you will be having like you will be indented. Okay, so here you can see it is like indented, 4 spaces. Ignore this bulleting points over here. So it should be indented, and you can have multiple lines which are describing. So maybe what are the inputs, parameters or arguments, and also what you can expect the function to return. Okay, so we'll be seeing about returning a value also from a function. So it is just not manipulating or calculating some stuff. It just needs to give back values also. No? So we'll be seeing about that too. So this is a docstring. Okay, so again here it is like commonly you can put a comment also by using a pound to the right side of the parenthesis. Okay, so maybe you can put a comment over here to tell what exactly is the function. Okay, so but the docstring is something like triple quotation. It can be in single line also. This is a function over here and triple quotation closing it. So basically you can access this docstring by using a special function like docstring itself. So again we'll be seeing that later on. So that is about the comments what you can do, and then you can like you will have your code. Okay, again indented. So similar to for loop, everything indented will be indented. So indentation. So over there, everything will be whatever is intended will be a part of for loop. Similarly over here for functions, it will be part of the function. So if you unindent, so if it goes back, any function goes back over here, so it is outside the function. Okay, so it is not included within the function. Okay, so you can have a number of statements or expressions over here, and finally you can return a value also. Again we'll be seeing in detail with respect to returning of values. And we similar to like we had seen in dictionaries and all this everything. So functions also have few kind of specialities or functions. It is just not repeatedly doing something. So maybe you want to print something, but specifically so at that time we'll be using something known as passing a information to the function. So this is like passing parameters, or you can call arguments. Okay, so generally we call it as arguments. So you can pass information to a function from them to work on. So to do so we can just enter parameters like name for each piece of information you can pass into the function. So like we had already seen parameters like length is a function len you will be using, and within that you will be passing a list or a dictionary, whatever it is. It will just return you the an integer which will tell the length of the string or dictionary. So we have already seen inbuilt functions. Okay, so this is like user design functions. So ideally the parameters should be described what's being passed in. Like for this, for code readability, you can use a generic name like xy or anything. So here we'll be using the generic name as value. So define func is my function name, func, value within the parenthesis, and don't forget colon. So similar to how we had used for conditional statements and also loops. So a colon, and then the code should be intended. So basically a docstring describing the function. So this is a docstring, maybe you can give that, and also it is just printing the value. Okay, so we'll create the same thing in the next video to understand it better. Okay, and also you can define optional parameters with it. So basically every time you might not send this value, so you can just give an optional parameter which will be having a default value. Okay, so value will be equal to 0. If I'm not passing any value, it will be equal to 0, so something like that. So we'll create something like a greeting. So if at all I am not passing any name, so maybe it can print off hello everyone or something like that. Okay, so we'll be doing in that in the next session. And similarly we can pass multiple values. It is not limited to one single value, it can be multiple values. So again, for the best example, range is an inbuilt function, right? So there we can literally pass three different values, right? So one is kind of starting points, like starting step, stop step, and finally this step. Okay, so how many times it, like, it should skip ahead. Okay, so that is a function. So over there also you can pass one single parameter or two parameters or three parameters. What happens is it will also have the range function, will also have predefined default values for those parameters. Okay, again we are passing with respect to position. You can do without position also. Again, we'll be learning more when we start coding, like when we go to the project sessions and all. So there will be understanding of what are the specific ones. So when we import all kind of libraries, so their particular functions will have whole lot of parameters or arguments. So over there you want to describe only few of them. So again you will be indexing them with name. So again we'll be getting to that when we move on to the projects. And next is like passing multiple values in a list. So you can pass a list itself, like multiple values in a list. So that can be done. And also finally returning value for functions. Okay, so far we have discussed only about what exactly is function, docstring and all. So in the previous slide I had something like return a functions. Okay, so for example in real life also it is very common when you are calling a function and it has to return some kind of value. So here it is directly printing. Rather than printing, you want to return some kind of value. Okay, so maybe you want to calculate, evaluate square of a number, and you want to store that in a different value or a variable itself, or different variable itself. So that can be done. So for that we will be using the returning of function. So in detail we'll be seeing in the next video.